It is clearly humiliation week in Donald Trump's White House, which means his stooges have to go out and defend the most indefensible actions and statements that he has made in the most embarrassing ways possible. And that is what RFK Jr. did this week. Instead of opting to defend Donald Trump on the Epstein files or say that he's making life more affordable for Americans, a lie, he decided he was going to defend the actions that he has taken under this administration and do it before students at a Turning Point USA event. And they grilled him, ripped him to shreds, confronted him, and he crumbled. We are going to get into it all, but before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button because it goes a long way in supporting our work. Now, there are lots of clips of RFK being torn apart, and there are a couple that I don't even know which my favorite is, but I want to start with this clip right here, a girl addressing RFK Jr.'s attack on literal language and why it has caused so many problems under this administration.
Hi, I'm currently getting my degree in public health from George Washington University. One of the primary things that we focus on are social determinants of health. There is extensive data that shows that factors such as someone's economic status, systemic and medical racism, and various environmental factors influence and predict someone's health outcome to a far higher extent than someone's necessarily personal action. And so I'm wondering how we can find out and solve the problem of making America healthy if the federal government has banned terms including health disparity, race, and accessibility from grant and research proposals when we know these are the things that we must be looking into in order to solve these problems.
What we do at our agency now is we're focusing on science. And if you're poor or if you're rich and you smoke cigarettes, you have a 1 in 5 chance of dying of lung cancer. When I was a kid, the most robust people, were, I said this in when I endorsed President Trump, I said, a healthy person has 1,000 dreams, and a sick person just has one. And we've got a whole generation now of kids who are sick, and they have only one dream. And we want to give them the American dream, which is thousands of dreams about their future, their aspirations, fulfilling the promises, the talents that God gave them. And for many of them, their lives are going to be consumed in the struggle with pain, with chronic pain and chronic disease. And we've got to end that. We've got to identify the exposures, get rid of them, and then figure out treatments.
If you can think back to when all of the Doge cuts were starting, there were so many programs, so much funding eliminated just because words that Donald Trump and Republicans don't like. Remember when the story, the history behind the Enola Gay was removed from a government website because the word gay was in it? Yeah, they were doing Control F and deleting funds. As this young woman brought up, RFK saw a mass attack on research funding just because there were words that make conservatives uncomfortable. And of course, this was detrimental to important research getting done. And this was not the only person to call that out, RFK Jr.'s attack on actual real research, because when he was questioned about his proposed wacko science links between autism and vaccines, which don't exist, yet again, he just crumbled.
GW, I was curious, I know you in the past were the chair of the Children's Health Defense nonprofit organization, a organization that has believe that vaccines are a contributing cause of autism, despite many studies on hundreds of thousands of children showing otherwise, with the exception of studies done by frauds like Andrew Wakefield, with a handful of subjects, whereas with studies with hundreds of thousands of subjects, they find no correlation at all to autism. Do you still agree with the claims by Children's Health Defense, or have you distanced themselves now, or do you, being the chair of Health and Human Services for the U.S., now maybe are more educated on that and do not believe that anymore?
I believe what I've always believed is that we need to study the cause of autism. Now, you say that autism has, in fact, the potential for vaccines to cause autism has been studied.
RFK does this thing where he says fake statistics in a really compelling way. I think Jon Stewart did a bit on this on The Daily Show, where there is no one who sounds better, although RFK Jr. sounds terrible, just yelling random statistics about 33% of that and 68% of 2 and 39 points of 46. And he just pushes these lies and these fake statistics with such confidence that it sounds like it makes sense. But if you just listen a little bit, it doesn't. And these students who are actually studying science instead of grifting are able to push back on him. And they should, and they need to. And surprisingly, some of the students who were doing so are of the MAGA ilk. Again, this is a Turning Point USA event. Who's pushing back on them? Some MAGA students, like this kid who, just telling by the look of him, looked a little MAGA adjacent to me. I don't know. I don't want to make assumptions about everyone. But the question that he asked was very pointed and very important.
First of all, thank you so much for being here and speaking with us today. Obviously, you're very concerned with the current medical crisis in our country. You talked a lot about it during the regular Q&A section, and I agree with a lot of your concerns and desires for an ambitious medical campaign. However, we also see at the same time that the administration is cutting a lot of funding for medical research and firing a lot of people within the medical department. So how are you able to balance this policy of wanting to downsize government while also having this policy to have an ambitious medical campaign?
We're not cutting science. We're not cutting research. And we're not cutting research. Now,
RFK, though, is cutting research funding. Not just cutting it. Cutting would imply that there was some sort of meticulous effort to understand the impacts. No, they're gutting research funding. Because as I always come back to, the cruelty is the point for Donald Trump's administration. That is what they want to achieve. They want to break the government. They want to make you believe that it does not work for you, that it only works for their billionaire buddies, and that there's nothing that you can do to change that. They don't want you to believe that government can work in any positive way. That is why Rust Vote, and I always come back to this quote, said he wanted to traumatize federal workers. And that's not just gutting jobs at DHS. It's not just cutting important funding for universities across the country to do important work, to make incredible scientific breakthroughs in America. And I remember Katie Britt, the horrible senator from Alabama, when she realized how much research funding being cut would hurt the research being done at the University of Alabama. She backed off a little bit on how excited she was about Doge. But these people want you to think that none of this works, that we can't create great things, that we can't discover cures to disease, that we can't improve people's lives. That's what they want you to think. And it's just not the case. It's just not true. It's why it's so important for these students who are working 2 careers in which they are applying themselves right now. God, I sound so old considering I just graduated college a few months ago, but to actually make a real difference in the world. They're not doing it because, as Donald Trump alleges, everyone who works at the CDC is evil. They're doing it because they want to help people. And that's what this administration fundamentally doesn't understand, the desire to want to help people, because they just want to hurt people and to grift as they do so. And that is all RFK Jr. has done in this job, which is why This clip of Chris Murphy ripping them apart for just that is an important reminder.
Appropriated by Congress for the purpose of vaccination programs. That is not what happened. You've done the opposite. You canceled $12 billion in grants to the states, including my state, that are used to administer and track vaccines. You promised Chairman Cassidy.
When did I do that?
Madam Chair, would you allow me to finish my question?
Keep going with your question.
When did I do that?
Let me finish my question.
Accusation. Just tell me when I did it so I can understand what the question
You
is.
have canceled $12 billion in public health grants to states, whether you know this or not. That funding is used by the states in part to be able to administer and dispense information about vaccines. Mr. Secretary, let me give you the full panoply of
Accusations without details.
the things you said before this committee that didn't turn out to be true. You also promised Chairman Cassidy that the FDA would not change vaccine standards from, quote, historical norms. But what happened as soon as you were sworn in? You announced new standards for vaccine approvals that you proudly referred to in your own press release as a radical departure from current practice. And experts say that that departure will delay approvals. You also said, specific to the measles vaccine, that you support the measles vaccine. But you have consistently been undermining the measles vaccine. You told the public that the vaccine wanes very quickly. You went on the Dr. Phil show and said that the measles vaccine was never fully tested for safety. You said there's fetal debris in the measles vaccine. And this morning—
All true.
This morning in
Do
front of—
you want me to lie to the public?
That's not— none of that is—
Of course it's true.
These people do not care about us. And I think the health and wellness space is one in which we really need to look at this. The lie that you hear, and it's not a lie, it's a truth. There's some truth behind a lot of what these people say, is that the profits of big pharma and these big food conglomerates, these giant multinational corporations that own so much, these big grocers, is they want you sick, right? That they're going to get you sick and sell you cures. And then it's all a big profit motive for them. And then you have RFK Jr. who says, well, to beat them, you have to buy my supplement, right? Like he doesn't have a profit motive. And that's exactly what he has, a profit motive. These people want to make money. We got to call that out. We are certainly going to always call out that grifting on this show. If you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video. If you stuck around to the end, even though I think I lost it a little bit in this video more so than any other time today, I've been under the weather today, friends. So if I said a wrong word or I just look a little tired, it is because I'm working my best while a little bit under the weather, and I blame RFK Jr. for that. But we're doing our best, and I appreciate your support. And if you want to support the show, as always, you can hit that subscribe button. Unless I already said this, leave a like on this video. If you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. Keep on fighting. Don't let them silence you. I think I need to take less Advil, cold and sinus, and NyQuil. But we got through it. And until next time, I'll see you soon.